Hello and welcome to What's the Tea? It's Women's History Month and also International Women's Day. And so it's a very special day to talk about what's the tea, what's the scalding hot topics that we can talk about in Nevada for politics, interesting people, the things that are going on in our world. My name is Laura Martin. I'm the Executive Director of the Progressive Leadership Alliance in Nevada. And today we thought it would be appropriate to talk about reproductive freedom, reproductive justice, and abortion. I'm going to be joined by Cassie Charles of Nevada's Reproductive Freedom Campaign and Laura Campbell from Nevada Now. First up, I am just going to go right into it and introduce Cassie Charles, who can tell us a little about herself and the campaign she is working on.
Hello, can you hear me? I'm good to go. Cool. My name is Cassie. It's good to be here back again with the PLAN team. I am the Deputy Campaign Manager and Political Director with the Nevadans for Reproductive Freedom campaign, which is the statewide ballot measure to codify access to abortion in our Constitution.
Mm-hmm. And what would be the purpose of that? Because I always hear from some sides of the political aisles that, no one can change it. That's already been decided back in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, we are under the understanding that, Roe versus Wade is the floor and not the ceiling. So there are so many more layers of protection that we should have for, reproductive freedom in the state of Nevada. And this ballot measure is the first step in advancing that progress. We know that every time states take hostile action towards any aspect of reproductive rights, it's an opportunity to engage people on why making protections more robust in Nevada is so important. And that's because we're still susceptible to, potential federal attacks. We live in a very politically interesting environment. That is changing every single day, every hour practically at this point. And we know that codifying access to it directly into the Constitution is the only way to stay protected from any future attacks, both federally and locally.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain a little bit about how in vitro fertilization or IVF became a part of this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately, the ruling out of Alabama is a reminder of just how urgent this issue is. We saw this ruling. I'm sure everybody was shocked to see what came out of Alabama and just how drastic that was. That was something that, people in Nevada have had conversations about, the potential of IVF bans and, these kinds of conversations. And when it came to life, I think it was a very polarizing moment for us. It really demonstrated just how drastically important it is to move forward with protecting access to reproductive freedom, no matter if it's abortion, if it's IVF, if it's miscarriage care. We knew that overturning Roe versus Wade opened the door not just to limits on abortion, but every part of reproductive health care, including IVF and birth control and so much more. So the IVF ruling just made it so much more important that we are doing the work that we are in Nevada. And hopefully that can set the example for future states.
Yeah, definitely. That I honestly thought before IVF, the tax would have been on birth control. But to see what Alabama did probably galvanized more people in a way that a lot of politicians were not expecting. And speaking of that, your campaign is actively collecting signatures to get the abortion question on Nevada's ballot this fall. How is that going? Are people excited to sign on? Is it difficult to get people enthusiastic about signing their name?
Yeah, talking about, why is this important and the IVF ruling, there's one thing for certain that we saw in Nevada that came out of this, which was people taking their anger about this and putting it to action. And so we have seen that, fully loaded on our campaign. By June 26th, we have to get 102,000 signatures in the state of Nevada to qualify this ballot initiative. And we are very happy to say that it is going well. We have a full paid team out in the community, so you may see them at your grocery store or at your community center. but we have reached 30,000 already, and we've only been on the ground for a couple of weeks now. So we are feeling really great about where we are in the campaign. And, what we're hearing from our field team, our petitioners that are out there for hours in the community talking about abortion very openly and very proudly, is that people are sharing their stories. People are sharing their stories with our canvassers, out front of an Albertsons, because they know just the impact of what their signature means on this petition. They know, that their story is finally a moment that, they're seeing come to life in our political space. And so we are seeing an outpouring of support and energy, and we are very excited to be here with it. So I'm happy to say that the campaign is going well at this moment.
Yeah, that's incredible. 30,000 signatures. If anyone has ever knocked doors or canvas, I think on average you can do like what, 100 doors in a 4-hour shift. So just knowing that in a few weeks, because you all kicked off your campaign at CSN in North Las Vegas only a few weekends ago. So 30,000, that's incredible. And I know I hear Archie outside talking to more voters to get more signatures. So I think we're going to hit our goal and then some. So are there ways, Cassie, that let's say somebody wants to help you collect signatures, they want to, their church is pro-abortion or their civic group that they're part of. We had people from the campaign at our State of the Union watch party last night, but how can people get connected if they want to help?
Yeah, if you want to help, we are also running a volunteer program. So we would love to get volunteers involved in this campaign. Volunteer energy is the heart of any campaign, and we would love to engage as many people as possible. And I see that there's a little banner on your screen, nvforreprofreedom.org. That's the best place to go to get involved. There's a volunteer form on there that you can sign up, and we'll reach out to get you plugged into a canvas. And then, of course, all of our social medias are a good place to go as well. It should be the same thing, NV for Repro Freedom, on Instagram, Twitter, all the fun things.
Cool. And then my final question, who is a woman or femme who has influenced your career or the work that you do?
That's a good question. I think about and I reflect on this a lot. Being a young woman in this space, I think about all of the women who have impacted my career, since the very beginning. I feel very fortunate to have had many incredible, women leaders in my life since I started out as a canvasser in 2016. One of my first bosses and now a dear friend is Raquel Cruz Juarez. And she's somebody who inspires me on the daily. And she really set me up with expectations for what I should look for in a boss, in a mentor, in a role model. She's somebody who, looks at an organizer as a whole human being and wants to ensure that they are succeeding in the way that they would like to, and make sure that their values are represented in this space, in this political environment. And so she really set the example for me for not only what a good role model and what a manager looks like, but how you show up in this space authentically as a woman and as a young person. So my heart goes out to Raquel if you're listening.
Thank you. That I co-signed to that too. Raquel is amazing. But thank you, Cassie. That was our last question. We will see you out there in the field, and we'll make sure that people have signed your petition and are signing up to volunteer for the campaign. Speaking of Raquel, do you know Raquel's government name is Laura? My name is Laura, and our next guest is Laura Campbell. So welcome, Laura. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Nevada Now and your role there?
Hi, Laura. My name is Laura Campbell. I am the Director of Actions for Nevada Now, which is a chapter within the larger National Organization for Women. And we work on a broad range of issues to ensure equality for all Nevadans by organizing, lobbying, and litigation. Pretty much we're everywhere. And we're a volunteer organization. So none of us get paid. It's all on our own time.
So speaking of that and ballot initiatives, you all worked really closely with Pat Spearman to pass probably the country's most progressive equal rights law. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then now for 2024, what role do women have in the upcoming election, especially in light of, reproductive freedom and IVF?
Yeah, so we worked really hard on the Equal Rights Amendment ballot initiative to add equal rights amendment to the state constitution. So And we have the most inclusive one. It includes gender, race, creed, religion, every other one, everything that you can think of. And it was so much fun to work on because talking about equality is just so much fun because everybody agrees on it. And it actually did really well. People voted on it and it passed, which means that everyone believes in equality and that we should all women, queer people, LGBTQ, everybody should be everyone should be treated equally.
Yeah.
And then and we're talking about the ballot initiative now. We're working on that with Cassie and Nevada for Repro Freedom. And we're really excited to work on that and get that added to the Constitution.
So how do you see those two things working together? I mean, it sounds like a simple idea. Everyone should be treated equally, but obviously we had to add it to our Constitution. So how are the Equal Rights Amendment, and then it almost feels like part 2 is a Reproductive Freedom Ballot Initiative. How do you feel like those two work together?
So essentially you wouldn't be able to, you can't discriminate someone based on their gender, on their color of their skin, their whatever is on in the year. I can't even think about it. I can't even name them all because it's so long. They would work together because you'd be able to, you can litigate with it. You can say that, you want to put an abortion ban. Well, you can't, or you want to restrict any kind of reproductive freedom. Well, you can't discriminate one gender for another. You can't say that women can't have this and men can have that. You can't say that, like, hey, men can get what do they use to kind of get them
Viagra.
going? Viagra. There you go. Thank you. You can't restrict. You can let all men get Viagra, but women can't get birth control. You can't discriminate one or another. And we think that just adding like Cassie said, just adding abortion into the amendment in the Nevada Constitution is just another level of protection. It's so that if there was a federal ban, we can fight that in the courts.
Yeah. So you all are always out and about everywhere. So I'm wondering what you've heard from your members or from your volunteers about the ballot initiative. Are people, they're like, let's pass this, let's go, or how are people feeling about it?
So we've heard a lot of support for the ballot initiative, but what you were saying earlier, like, people think it's already protected and it's done, which we do have a statute that permits abortion up to 24 weeks. So we are protected in that way, but an amendment to the Constitution would permanently protect us, and it'd be so hard to get taken away. Amending the Constitution is a very hard thing to do, and it takes years of work. And as long as we have that protection in place, it would be so hard for anyone else to do it. And also, like, sharing a lot of personal stories too. Talking about abortion has been so taboo for so long that sometimes hearing someone's story humanizes the issue. So that's been kind of really cool about this whole thing, is that, like, people are sharing their stories, kind of like Cassie was saying in their Albertsons parking lot. I mean, you don't know someone's story. You don't know that someone's birth control failed until they tell you. Mm-hmm. Like, for myself, like, I tied my tubes in 2021 when I had my daughter, and 2 years ago, well, I guess last year, my tubes untied and I got pregnant, which is very rare, according to my doctor, that I should have played the lottery. And I was able to, like, get I went to my doctor. I told my doctor, hey, I'm pregnant. Like, why am I pregnant? And I was able to get the abortion pills and medically have my abortion at home. Mm-hmm. And telling that story really kind of humanizes it. And people are like, oh, I didn't realize that happened. That you should have that access to the healthcare that you need, because you didn't want to be pregnant anymore. I didn't want to expand my family. Birth control failed me.
And that should be the end of the explanation too. I feel like sometimes people feel like they have to go into, extenuating circumstances, life of the mother, but it's like, you had your tube ties because you did not want to have kids anymore.
Yeah, period. I did what I was supposed to not have kids anymore, and it failed me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then there's more, and obviously there's more to it. Like, doesn't matter if your tube's tied or if it's left. It should be, if you want to get one, you should be able to get one. Mm-hmm. No questions asked.
Period.
Period.
What's a good way that people can connect with Nevada Now? Because again, you all are, um, I see you on protest lines, in meetings, in campaign planning meetings. How can people get a hold of you all?
You can go on our website, nevadanow.org. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, Nevada Now. We love people following us on social. We love seeing everyone's interaction on social media, and we do a lot of our messaging with social media. So if you want to know about our next meeting, definitely go to our website. You can sign up there, become a member. It's only like $35 to become a member. And you get to be a part of a really cool group of women and some men. We have some men who are Nevada Now members, but who really fight for equality and fight and work with organizations in the community.
Yeah, you all really do. You're such good partners in a lot of different ways, and we really appreciate that. My last question is, who is a woman or femme who has influenced you, either your career or the organizing work that you do with Nevada Now?
Can I give you top 10? I'm just kidding. I gotta say, like, the women in Nevada doing the work are what like inspire and influence me. Like, I could literally name like Jerry Burton, Sue Birch, like my Nevada Now board. Shout out to all of them. They are so inspiring. There's some amazing Michelle Maese. Like, she is like, she's amazing. Like, I love hearing her speak because she just like takes over a room. Like, you listen to her. Lindsay Harmon, Planned Parenthood. Caroline from Nevada Reproductive Freedom for All. They just changed their name. Cassie's one of the inspiring women. You, Laura, like just all the women in Nevada, because when something happens, like we all come together. Like we're such a tight knit group that like one person has a problem, we all have a problem. We have each other's backs, and like we work better together in numbers. And every state should have that.
Yeah, I think that's something really special about Nevada is the women leaders that are here and how we work together and help each other. You may not always see it, but people come through for you, and I really appreciate it about Nevada.
I mean, I think that just like anytime something happens, like the emails and the phones and the text messages are going off, like, and it's women. Mm-hmm. It's women. Like another woman is Donna West. I mean, I could just name like like all the women in it that we see, and we see each other all the time, and everyone's like, well, what do we need? What do we need from each other? Like, it's never like, it's no questions asked. Like, we're there for each other.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being there for us today for our International Women's Day podcast. And definitely thank you for everything that Nevada Now does. And we will see you out in the field.
Yeah, thank you. Can't wait to see you at the next event.
Yay. Cool. So that was good. That was good conversation. We wanted to also talk about, yesterday was the State of the Union. Every year, the president is invited to address a joint session of Congress. That means the House of Reps and the Senate comes together. And could maybe one day the president talks about the state of our union. So what is happening? He is talking about what the T is. And so President Biden said a lot of good things about corporations being taxed up to 25% as the floor, giving tax rebates to first-time homeowners. I believe he said $5,000. He talked about greedy landlords and lowering the rent. He talked about a ceasefire in Gaza, holding Israel accountable, which we shall see. But unfortunately, there was a little pinch when he was heckled by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was dressed like something that was pumped out of a septic tank, with like MAGA gear, buttons. And I believe she's wearing a button of a woman who was killed by someone who, excuse me, is undocumented. And when she was heckling him, he was like, yes, I will say this girl, he was holding a button. I will say this girl's name. She was killed by his words and illegal. He actually used that term twice. Time to wake up, Hector. So that's a problem because the immigrant rights movement for as long as I can remember has been pretty solid in rejecting the idea that you describe a person as an illegal. That's language that's dehumanizing. and it dehumanizes a person to give way to the mistreatment of those folks. It's a tragedy that that girl was murdered. It's a tragedy when anyone is murdered. But we know that murder is not linked to anyone's undocumented status. A lot of times it's just linked to violent people, including people like Dan Rodimer, who was endorsed by President Trump and turned himself in this week in Clark County Detention Center for murdering somebody. So we do have to be careful with our language. We are signing on to a letter with United We Dream, which is a national youth-led immigrant rights movement to demand President Biden apologize. We will not be gaslit into believing that that was just a little slip mistake. It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed quickly. Biden is already struggling to connect with young people, especially young Latinos, and this doesn't help. And so Biden needs to step it up. The people who surround him need to step it up, and we need to hear an apology immediately. And it could, you could start it when Kamala Harris, the vice president, will be in North Las Vegas this Saturday, where North Las Vegas is slowly becoming a majority Latino and a large immigrant population. Um, a little call to action. So, other than the rent being too damn high, so are our utilities. NV Energy and Southwest Gas are picking our pockets essentially. I remember my Southwest Gas bill was like the cheapest bill I had. I used to pay it like a year in advance. I would put like $100 on my books, like on my Southwest Gas account, and that would be fine. And now $100 doesn't even cover my monthly bill. And what is frustrating is they're raising our rates, earning more money, but not investing in clean energy solutions that over time will lower cost. During the whole pandemic, they could have been doing that. It was the right opportunity and they just chose not to. And so on March 21st at the plan office in Las Vegas, we are launching our utility justice campaign to really talk about all of the layers, all of the people who are involved in, from when you turn your light switch on to when you pay your bill, the lobbyists, the politicians, the Public Utilities Commission. Why are utilities so high? One of the benefits of living in Las Vegas was where things were cheap, cheap rent, cheap utilities, and now that's being taken away from us. Our salaries, if you look at data, salaries have gone up exponentially. But it almost feels like you're not getting ahead because our landlords, Southwest Gas, are picking our pockets to line our own. And so our utility justice campaign is when we are going to fight back. Um, and definitely as we close it out, we want you all to follow Plan's social media pages. They're all PLA Nevada, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And definitely want to repeat, it is International Women's Day. It's Women's History Month. Want to take, in Plan's 30th year, want to give a shout out to the women who helped make Plan. Maya Miller, Jan Gilbert, Barbara Buckley, Christian Kiliani, Ruby Duncan, Lori Littman Brown, all of the women, all of the foremothers of the movement who knew that in order for everyday average Nevadans to win, we had to be just as organized as the corporations and the businesses. And so I'm really honored and proud to be a planista and just be part of that history and legacy of building a movement. We never set up shop to just build our own little empire and kind of stomp everyone out, but we wanted to build a movement and build a more progressive Nevada. And so and if there's anyone out there wondering when International Men's Day is, it's April 1st. Have fun. So thank you all so much for another episode of What's the Tea. Have a good Women's History Month.